In a world that constantly asks us to run faster, do more, be more, have you ever paused long enough to ask yourself, what have I been giving up just to keep up? Have you ever sacrificed your silence for approval, your truth for validation, or your values for comfort? You're not alone. Every day, millions wake up and unconsciously surrender little parts of themselves. A word not said to avoid judgment, a boundary ignored to avoid conflict, a choice made, not from the heart, but from fear. But what if I told you, there are two things you must never, ever trade away, no matter how tempting the offer. Not for love, not for security, not even for survival. Those two sacred things are self-respect and inner peace. Without them, we become like a boat with no anchor, tossed around by every wave of opinion, trend, and external demand. But with them, we become unshakable, even in the midst of life's most violent storms. Now you may wonder, how can something so simple, so inward, be more valuable than money, fame, or status? And if that's true, why do so many of us give them away so easily? As a monk who has lived over 40 years in the folds of the mountains and among the quiet footsteps of the earth, I have watched countless people come and go, some wealthy, some broken, all searching. And I have come to this conclusion: the most painful suffering is not poverty or loneliness. It is the silent grief of having betrayed your own soul. So today, let us journey together, not through scriptures or philosophy, but through experience, real stories, honest questions, and gentle truths. Let this not be a sermon, but a conversation. Let me ask you something before we begin. When was the last time you said no to something that didn't feel right and meant it? When was the last time you truly felt at peace? Not because everything was perfect, but because you didn't have to pretend. If these questions stirred something inside you, even just a whisper of discomfort or recognition, then stay. This message was meant to find you. Let us begin not by learning something new, but by remembering something old, something your heart has always known. You are worthy, not because others say so. You are whole, even when the world says you're not. You are free, the moment you choose to be. Now come, walk with me. We have two treasures to protect, and together, we will learn how to never lose them again. There was once a merchant, respected, wealthy, feared in the marketplace. His name echoed in the chambers of commerce and city streets. But behind his ornate doors and silk-draped windows, his nights were long, restless, and hollow. He had built an empire with gold, but lost himself brick by brick. And one day, in a moment of quiet despair, he heard of a monk who lived in the mountains, a teacher whose silence could calm storms, whose words could pierce stone. The merchant climbed that mountain. He carried gifts wrapped in silk, gold coins, gemstones, incense imported from distant lands. "Master," he said, kneeling and placing the treasures before the monk, "teach me to be happy. Take these. I offer all that I have." The monk, wrapped in plain brown robes, didn't even glance at the gifts. His gaze was like still water, deep, unmoving. "Do you believe," the monk asked, "that these can buy peace?" The merchant hesitated. "Surely, they can help. Surely, comfort breeds peace." The monk smiled gently. "Comfort is not peace. Wealth is not wisdom. Happiness is not a transaction." Embarrassed, the merchant dropped his eyes. "Then teach me without them. I see now. True wisdom cannot be bought." "Exactly," the monk said. "Had I taken your gold, I would have betrayed my essence and taught you that your value lies in what you offer, not in who you are, but peace begins where pretending ends. They sat together in silence as the sun set, the fire crackled, and a new kind of wealth bloomed in the merchant's chest. That night, he slept not on a bed of silk, but on stone, and rested deeper than he had in decades. Self-respect is not pride, it is integrity. It is knowing that who you are when you're alone, unseen, unvalidated, is still sacred. In today's world, we are constantly nudged to abandon our essence. Think about how often people compromise themselves for applause. A talented artist paints what's popular, not what is true. A young woman laughs at jokes that wound her soul just to fit in. A son hides his beliefs to win the approval of a father who never truly listened. And we call this survival. We call it maturity. But what it really is loss. A gradual erosion of self, so slow we don't notice until one day we don't recognize the person in the mirror. I once met a teacher who had spent 20 years in a prestigious school. Everyone respected him. Parents adored him. Yet he confessed to me, "I haven't taught from my heart in years. I say what the administration wants. I smile even when it hurts. I go home every day with a full wallet and an empty soul." He had status, but no self. We are taught to fear being disliked more than being disloyal to ourselves. But ask yourself, what use is a crown if it presses down on your dignity? What comfort is worth losing the ability to look yourself in the eye? Your self-respect is your root. Uprooted, and even the most beautiful branches will wither. And so, the first vow you must make on this journey is not to me, but to yourself. I will no longer trade my self-worth for anyone's approval. I will walk in truth, even if I walk alone. That is where the path begins. When the world demands you to sacrifice your peace to satisfy its fears, stand firm. Be like the mountain, still, unyielding, and quietly, unshakably, alive. But how do we live this wisdom, not just in moments of silence, but in the rhythm of daily life? How do we protect self-respect and inner peace in a world filled with noise, opinions, obligations, and expectations? The answer is not to escape the world, but to engage it differently. Let me offer you some practical guidance. Not abstract ideals, but grounded habits cultivated over decades of monastic life and shared by many who walked this path before us. Begin with this. Know your worth without needing validation. Every morning, before the world speaks to you, speak to yourself. Even one sentence, a whisper, "I am enough." Say it not because you're perfect, but because you are present. You exist. You breathe. That alone is miraculous. Then ask, where am I compromising today? Make this a daily reflection. It could be in the way you speak, the people you tolerate, the standards you lower. Awareness is the first step back to wholeness. Next, create moments of stillness in your day. Not grand rituals, but simple acts. Sit in silence for 5 minutes before checking your phone. Walk slowly, without headphones, just noticing your breath and footsteps. Drink your tea without multitasking. Let it be a meditation. These are not luxuries. They are practices of reclaiming your attention, and through that, your peace. Also, learn to say no with compassion. People will test your boundaries, not because they are evil, but because they are lost in their own needs. Saying no does not mean you are unkind. It means you respect both yourself and the other enough to be truthful. There is a great myth in our culture that to be spiritual is to be endlessly accommodating. That peace means saying yes to everything, But peace without boundaries is passivity, and passivity breeds resentment. Real peace is active. It holds its shape. It does not collapse to please others. Now, consider forgiveness, not as a feeling, but as a practice. Many people wait for peace to arrive before they forgive. But often, peace is what comes after you forgive. Think of someone you still carry pain for. Perhaps it is yourself. Ask, can I release the need to punish, even if I cannot forget? Can I honor the lesson without dragging the wound? Forgiveness is not about excusing harm, it's about refusing to carry it further. And finally, choose peace over performance. We live in an age of projection, curating perfect lives online, performing success, performing goodness, even performing spirituality. But what would it look like if you lived for truth instead of appearance? If your peace was rooted not in how others saw you, but in how aligned you felt inside? You are not here to impress the world. You are here to embody wisdom. You don't have to move to a monastery to live this way. You just have to begin paying attention. So I invite you today, not to change your life overnight, but to plant a seed. One moment of truth, one breath of stillness, one decision made from integrity, not fear. And let that be enough. Because from that small act, a different life begins to grow. One where your self-respect is not negotiable. One where your peace is protected like sacred ground. One where you no longer abandon yourself to belong to others. This too is the way of Zen. Simple, quiet, but powerful beyond measure. This too is the way of Zen. Simple, quiet, but powerful beyond measure. I must now share something not as a teacher, but as a human being who once faltered. Many years ago, when I was still a young monk, a prominent official visited our temple. He was powerful, influential, and he offered a generous donation. In return, he asked for something small, to hang a banner bearing his name in the meditation hall during an upcoming ceremony. It seemed harmless at first. The money could help repair the roof, feed the villagers, support our retreat programs. I hesitated, but in the end, I agreed. And from that moment, my heart grew heavy. Each time I sat in meditation under that banner, I felt its weight hanging over me, not just in fabric, but in spirit. I had allowed ego to enter sacred space. I had traded silence for favor. Soon my students noticed. My words felt hollow. My energy dimmed. One evening, a novice came to me and asked, "Master, why does the hall feel different now?" That was the moment I could no longer hide from myself. The next morning, I took down the banner. I returned the money, and I gathered everyone to offer my apology, not for the act alone, but for forgetting the very heart of my practice. In that moment, I reclaimed something far more valuable than a donation. I reclaimed myself. From then on, I vowed to never again compromise truth for convenience or peace for praise. You see, wisdom is not in never falling. It is in noticing the fall, standing up, and returning to the path with clearer eyes. So if you are reading this and thinking, "I've already compromised. I've already betrayed my peace. I've already sold pieces of myself to please others," let me say this. It's not too late. Each moment offers a doorway back. You can return. You can forgive. You can realign. Not through guilt, but through gentle truth. Because the soul doesn't need perfection. It only asks for honesty. So let us close this journey not with answers, but with deeper questions. The kind you carry into your own quiet moments. What have I been giving away that was never meant to be traded? Whose voice have I placed above my own? What would life feel like if I lived from the inside out, not the outside in? You will not find lasting peace in applause or self-respect in being liked. You will find them in silence, in integrity, in the still decision to choose yourself again and again. And when you do, you won't need to chase validation or fight for space. You will radiate something the world cannot give you, and therefore cannot take away. This is not a lesson, it is a remembrance. And if you forget again, that's okay. Just return. Because peace is patient, and self-respect, when nurtured, will always lead you home. Thank you for walking with me. May you be safe. May you be whole. May you be free.